Now that we're informed about ICIMOD, I'd like to call upon Dr. Arnico Panday, Program Coordinator for Atmosphere Initiative at ICIMOD, to introduce us to Atmosphere Initiative and also to the atmospheric issues in the region.
So thank you. Welcome to Kathmandu, everyone. We're very happy to finally meet you here in person after a long preparation time and for a while we were actually planning to have the media training workshop in June, but because of the earthquake in Kathmandu, everything got delayed. So we're very happy that it's finally moving forward. Just before I start with my talk, you've all received a little questionnaire form. We'd appreciate if you could just go through that this morning. It's just a way of us gauging what your starting knowledge is, or what your self-assessment of your starting knowledge is before we start the training workshop, and we'll have another questionnaire on Friday. And so just for each of the questions, from 1 to 5, give us an honest answer of how well you think you know the answer to those questions, or what your sense of understanding is of the topic. So with 1 being the lowest understanding and 5 being very confident that you know a lot about it. You'll have a similar questionnaire again on Friday. So we'll be talking a lot about various issues related to air pollution in the region throughout the week, and I just thought I'd give you a quick pictorial overview of some of the issues that I'm sure all of you are aware of in your home countries, but of course what we feel, what we breathe is air pollution on the local level, both in urban areas as well as in rural areas. Whether in Mandalay or in Thimphu, air pollution is everywhere throughout our region, throughout all of our countries. But it's not only local. In fact, very often in the dry season we have this thick layer of haze that extends over a very large region. And this composite satellite image, everything in red is where this haze is. It's a merging together of plumes of smoke from lots and lots of fires, lots and lots of tailpipes, lots and lots of chimneys, into one big mass of pollution that sits over the most populated part of South Asia. Very often from just about now, October, November, until the rainy season starts again in May or June, with, of course, brief interruptions, but it's been growing over time and is a big cause of concern. But then in the winter, a similar region also suffers from heavy fog. Not just this haze of fine particles, but water droplets when you're basically sitting in the low cloud and fog. Again, it's become a very regional issue, and it's grown a lot over time. Just to illustrate how big of a regional issue it is, here's the Himalaya area. Bangladesh is here, Pakistan is here, Nepal, Bhutan. And you see the fog here on a representative day on the 17th of December, 18th. What used to be a local morning fog in a lot of places has turned into a multi-week regional monster that we still don't have a full understanding of what's caused its increase over time, but we know it affects the lives of a few 100 million people. It affects transport, affects people's well-being, affects people's health, both directly through hypothermia in places where people are normally used to warm weather, but also through air pollution from little fires, tens of millions of little fires that people light to stay warm. And of course has a huge impact on economies, on railroads and road transport and air traffic. And there's a lot of evidence that it's grown a lot over time. In the graph here, this is the fraction of winter days with fog in North and South Asia. And the fog frequency used to be somewhere between 5 and 10% in the 1970s and early 80s. And it's now averages over around 20% or so. At the Atmosphere Initiative in ICIMOD, we are working with scientists from 6 of the regional member countries on trying to do a regional study of the fog to try to understand why it's grown, why it's increased so much. What's the interplay between increased pollution, which affects fog formation, and you'll learn more about that over the course of the week, but also increased winter irrigation and other changes in people's activities. Another topic, the cryosphere, the snow and ice in the Himalaya has been disappearing over the last few decades. Why? What's causing that? To what extent is it because of global warming by greenhouse gases? To what extent is it because of black carbon, which is the black particles you see coming out of diesel trucks, out of brick kilns? When you have black carbon sitting in the air, it warms up the air. And if you have warmer air touching the snow and ice, to what extent is that causing the warming? You also have black carbon, other dark particles depositing onto white surfaces. When you turn the surface darker, it warms up faster. So that's contributing to melting also. There could also be changes in rainfall patterns and snowfall patterns because of other atmospheric changes going on. So we'll be going into all of these later on this week. But there's other effects also of air pollution on the whole monsoon system. If you look closely here, you have this dark gray, brownish haze interacting with monsoon clouds. Even though in the monsoon it's generally, the air feels cleaner, there's still a lot of pollution. What you have when you change the number of particles, pollution particles in the air, that changes the sizes of cloud droplets, the number of cloud droplets, and actually changes when and how you get rainfall. So, still very much a topic of concern, a topic of research about exactly how monsoon patterns are changing in the region. We know they're changing. We all have anecdotal evidence and evidence from agriculture and from weather records that the rainfall patterns are changing. But to what extent are they actually driven by air pollution? And to what extent are they driven by broader changes in heating and cooling driven by global climate change? The monsoon, once you start changing the sunlight available at the surface, once you start changing heating and cooling, you end up having large effects on ecosystems and agriculture, and with effects on agriculture, of course, and food security as well. Then there is the issues of impact on people's health. If you're exposed to high levels of pollution, what does that do to your lungs? Who is most affected in the region? To what extent is it the women who are affected by cooking fires? To what extent are men more affected by traffic? What's the impact on small children? And then very visibly, air pollution has an impact on visibility, on how far you can see. And when you're in a mountain area where selling good views of mountains, selling sunrise views of mountains is what brings income through tourism, then you want to have a view like this and not like this. This picture was taken a couple of days apart from Hatiban Resort, which is in the southern valley rim. This evening we'll be in Nagarkot, which is on the other side, kind of just up the ridge there. We're hoping to have views like this, but if we have views like this, then it's the topic we're studying. If you see on the agenda, tomorrow morning, if you're lucky, you can see the sunrise over Mount Everest. If you're unlucky, it could be clouds, but more likely in this season it's regional haze coming in. Then what can be done about air pollution and its impacts? We'll have a series of sessions that talk about mitigation options. You can reduce emissions through improved emission control technology. For example, devices on chimneys or on vehicle exhaust systems that reduce the amount of smoke coming out. Or switching to cleaner technology, switching to cleaner forms of cooking, to cleaner fuel, cleaner burning engines, to cleaner technology for brick making, and you'll learn a lot more about that tomorrow. But also changing activity patterns, changing how much one travels around, for example, how goods are transported, from how far away. Large-scale changes, how are urban areas planned, how are transport systems planned, how do entire countries build their homes. And of course, mitigation is very much tied into policies that need to create the right conditions for mitigation to be successful. So I hope I've kind of given you a brief overview of some of the issues that will occur and recur throughout this week. And if I mention words, terms, concepts that might sound a little bit confusing, feel free to interrupt now or anytime later. But these will come back again throughout the week. So Arun already gave us a brief introduction to the Atmosphere Initiative. The Atmosphere Initiative was kind of founded here at ICIMOD only a couple of years ago in order to bring together a team at ICIMOD that addresses exactly these kinds of issues. And we have sort of 7 working areas. We want to have a better understanding of emissions of pollution, building inventories of how much pollution comes out of what kind of activity. Well, for example, how many trucks are there? How much smoke comes out of each truck per kilometer? Or how many brick kilns are there in certain locations? What kind of technology? How much pollution comes out per brick produced or per brick kiln? Building an inventory, basically a map of where the pollution sources are and how much is coming out and how that changes over time. But also we'd like to understand the socioeconomic drivers of emissions. Why are people burning what they're burning? Why has burning of rice stalks increased a lot over bigger areas of the Indo-Gangetic Plains? How does that tie in with labor migration, with men having moved out of rural areas, leaving behind women receiving remittance income, having money available but no labor to hand cut the rice stalk, but renting combine harvester machines that then leave behind a lot of straw in the fields that needs to be cleared very fast. So there's these non-technology aspects also of why and how emissions take place. Why is it that people light fires to stay warm during the fog over a lot of the Indo-Gangetic Plains? Why not other alternatives? What are the barriers? Then a big part of our emphasis is on improving scientific knowledge of atmospheric issues in the region. We work on setting up atmospheric observatories, air quality monitoring stations. Initially, we're working with the governments of Bhutan and Nepal with the expectation to expand that further, and also in partnership with organizations in other countries. We've conducted and we will be conducting more short-duration field campaigns where we get together a large number of scientists to work on one topic to really understand the processes behind it. And then we have a in-house modeling center that we've been building up, and you'll hear more about that. But then also we work in quantifying impacts on climate, the cryosphere, water resources, agriculture, tourism, livelihoods. As I mentioned, I'm working on mitigation options, and you'll learn a lot tomorrow about how we've partnered with the Ministry of Industry, but also with brick entrepreneurs in Kathmandu to rebuild the Kathmandu Valley's brick kilns that got damaged in the earthquake in cleaner ways to make them less polluting. We also work on assessing mitigation options in cooking and agriculture, increasingly in the transport sector. Tomorrow evening, you're invited to come to a panel at the Environmentally Sustainable Transport Forum, which is a large event, an international event taking place in Kathmandu this week. So you'll hear more about the transport sector there. Then on capacity building, we have a PhD Fellows program, but also hosting a series of short courses. This is one of them. Last year we hosted a short course on teaching atmospheric modeling skills to students, but also broader outreach and network building through producing educational materials, a film. We've just completed a film about a month ago, and you'll be seeing it later this week, and hosting a bunch of regional meetings. Arun emphasized that we're an intergovernmental organization, an IGO, we're owned by the 8 member countries, and that kind of gives us a unique position to bring together experts from around the region to try to encourage them to work more together, to encourage data sharing across borders, for example. So we've been doing a series of meetings bringing together the atmospheric scientists from the region to try to encourage collaboration across borders. Air does not need a visa or a passport to cross the border. Scientific data also should be able to flow back and forth in ideas and the better regional understanding of an issue that is not, while the emissions take place locally, the effects and the extent of it is very much regional. And then, of course, we look for opportunities to provide policy recommendations at national, regional, and global levels. I just briefly want to introduce the team of the Atmosphere Initiative, and you'll be meeting most of the team members throughout the week, some today, some on the field trip, some later on during the week. I want to emphasize this media training workshop is a collaboration between the Atmosphere Initiative and then the Knowledge Management and Communication unit here at ICIMOD that Anja Rasmussen is leading, and she'll be talking next. Thank you.